So today me and you, we're making blondies, making gluten-free blondies, and I absolutely love blondies. Now loads of people often ask me what a blondie is, because people seem to think it's something to do with white chocolate. It's like a brownie, but it's a white chocolate version. That's not really the case, although I do put white chocolate in these. It's actually like a vanilla brownie, as it were. It's got a really nice vanilla-y flavour. It's super fudgy. I personally think they're better than brownies. I just think they're great. And this recipe is even better because it's literally one bowl. You will need one bowl, shove it all in, mix it together, put it in a tin, put it in the oven, and bish bash bosh, you've got blondies. Now, blondies are really, really versatile, so I'm gonna just show you how to make the most basic of blondies today. But on my website, you will see that there are tons of other different varieties of how you can jazz up your blondies, and obviously you can do whatever you want as well, because they're just good. They're really, really good. And I will link this recipe in the description below, so if you want to check it out, if you want to cook along, if you like it written down more than you like seeing my face and everything, then that's completely cool. But yeah, I will show you the very simple ingredients in a second. As well as this being a gluten-free recipe, I will show you, or tell you when I'm looking at the ingredients, how you can make it dairy-free. I'll also mention how you can make it vegan and low FODMAP. So yeah, let's get to the ingredients over here. They're right near me. And then I'll very quickly show you how to make them. Very quickly, because they are that quick to make and they are that easy. So yeah, let's get going. Okay, so here are all my ingredients. We firstly have got gluten-free plain flour or all-purpose flour over here. We have got some corn flour / cornstarch, which I add these two together in a lot of recipes like this because I just really like the texture it brings. So obviously this isn't compulsory, but I would really recommend it because I think it works. I've got a little bit of xanthan gum because there's no sort of xanthan gum in my flour mix, so I think it's good to add some just for texture and holding up and giving it that more gluten-y texture. I've got two different types of sugar here, so I always use light brown sugar and caster sugar in my blondies, in my brownies, in all things like that. I like the mixture. I like the caramelly flavour of the light brown sugar, but then I just think that if you had all of that, it'd be too much. So mix together and literally just do half and half. I have got some butter here. This is actually melted. It's been melted quite a while, so it's cooled down. If you were dairy-free and vegan, then you could use a dairy-free / vegan butter that's melted. If you're low FODMAP, this butter is absolutely fine because butter is low in lactose. I've got white chocolate chips here. If you're dairy-free or vegan, just use white chocolate, like vegan or dairy-free white chocolate, and that would be absolutely fine. Oh, I've got eggs. I've got 2 eggs here. So obviously for just gluten-free people, just low FODMAP people, just dairy-free people, the eggs are fine because I do actually get asked quite a lot about eggs being dairy. Eggs are not dairy, but for vegan people, obviously you wouldn't be having eggs. So these can be changed over with an egg replacer. You can use a flax egg. You can actually use banana quite well in things like this. And aquafaba is quite good too. Whatever your egg replacer are, there's only 2 eggs in it, so it's not too difficult to replace, and we're not looking for loads of rise. So I find that when you're not looking for rise, replacing eggs isn't as difficult. And finally, the final ingredient, because these are like vanilla brownies as it were, blondies, is vanilla. I've got this brand today. I've been finding it a bit hard to get hold of vanilla, or I was earlier in the year, so I have got loads of different random ones that I bought. So this is the first time trying this today and it looks really, really good. So those are all the ingredients. As you can see, not very many and all very, very simple and easily accessible. And now I'm gonna get my one bowl, because as I said, that's all I need. Put it all together and then we'll have blondies. Okay, so I've got my bowl to mix everything in, and now I'm going to add my sugar. So I've got caster sugar and my light brown sugar and my butter, and then I'm gonna mix this all together until it's really nice and smooth. As I said earlier, I let my butter cool down a little bit because I just think it mixes a bit better and gets a bit thicker. If you do it when the butter is just melted and hot, then when you mix these together, I would leave it a little bit just so it thickens up. I'll show you what I mean in terms of texture before you go to the next stage. Okay, so once you've mixed it, it tends to come out at this sort of consistency, which is relatively runny. I then just go off and wash up a few bowls or whatever I want to do whatever for about 5 minutes, and it really does sort of thicken up a little bit. I mean, it would be fine, but
I've always found that the mixture is just easier to manage and it comes out better if I just leave it for a few minutes just to thicken up a little bit. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back when it's the texture that I fancy. Okay, so the mixture has thickened up a lot now, as you can see. That is pretty good. You can leave it to thicken up a little bit more, it doesn't matter. This is probably perfect actually. It's just that little bit more stiff. So now is time to add our next two ingredients. One of them is both are very important, but one of them is the vanilla. So the vanilla obviously is what really flavors the blondie. So I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla. I'm gonna add my 2 eggs. So you could add egg replacer if you needed to at this point. And then I'm just gonna mix it all together, just like I did when I mixed the sugar and the butter together. Okay, so next up I'm gonna add my flour, my xanthan gum, and my corn flour. So I'm gonna pop this all in. You can mix this by hand. I'm going to mix it with my electric hand mixer just to show that you can do it both ways. Either way is fine. You don't want to over mix it, but you want to mix it so that there are no little lumps of flour or anything showing. But don't mix it absolutely to death because that's just not necessary, and I find that can make things a bit tougher. So yeah, just a light mix so that there's no lumps and everything's combined. We don't want to see any little white bits of flour in here. We just want to see a beautiful thickened version of this, and then we are so close to being there. Right, and the final ingredient, chocolate chips. So I'm gonna tip these in and just fold them in with my spatula. So this mixture is now completely ready. In some of my other blondies, I would now add stuff like raspberries or loads of other different things that you could add to a blondie. But for this is just super plain. So this is ready to be put into the tin. I have pre-prepared my tin. It's a 9x9 square baking tin. And I have preheated my oven to 160 degrees C fan, which is 180 degrees C, which is 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what you need to do. So I'm just going to tip this into my tin now and then pop it in the oven, and it goes into the oven for around half an hour. This can really vary though, I find everyone's ovens seem to be slightly different when it comes to blondies, and sometimes you'll find it might take 35 minutes, some people 25, but on the whole, I find half an hour works really well for the level of fudginess that I want. And for instance, if let's say the top was getting a bit darker than you wanted it to be, you could just put some foil over the top and then you could put it back in, and then the top won't brown but the rest will cook. So I don't know why I'm telling you all this whilst we're just looking at the mixture. I could tell you this when we put it in the tin, which is what I'm gonna do right now. So I've poured the blondie mixture in now, I've smoothed it over as much as I can, and that's literally it. You can add a few more white chocolate chips on top, like this, if you want to, because there's actually nothing else going in this. With other ones I might sort of, like I add jam sometimes to the top or caramel, just some ideas there, which you can find on my blog, but this is all that is going in this one. So if you were going to put a few more white chocolate chips, just push them down. And then it's quite simple. We're going to pop this in the oven, probably 30 to 35 minutes at 160 degrees C fan, as I have said before. And then you'll have some beautiful blondies. Big thing with blondies, leave them to cool. It is so important. And I will reiterate that in a little bit because I want to make sure you remember that, because I don't. Sometimes I'm too tempted and I'll just eat them when they're still slightly warm, but leaving them to cool makes such a better blondie. So there you go, I've got my blondies out the oven. Really simple. Now all we need to do is let them sit here for ages in the tin. No cutting, no moving, just leaving them in the tin to completely cool down. And once they're completely cool, then we can lift them out and cut them into squares. You can cut them into 9s, into 16s, however much you want them. They're quite sweet and I'd say fairly filling, so you might want to cut them smaller, but I tend to just cut them into 9. Anyway, let's leave them to cool and I'll be back. These are so fudgy, they're so gooey, and they are so easy to make. Just like my 3-ingredient Nutella brownies, which you can go to up here, and my slutty brownies, which you can go to up here. And I will see you in the next video.